We begin with the activity in Tallahassee. Governor Ron DeSantis says he wants to save Floridians about $1,000 on their property tax bills over the next year. It's part of his push to eliminate property taxes entirely in 2026. This comes after a proposed sales tax cut by the House Speaker.
The governor's rebate needs to be approved by the legislature. It clashes with a proposal by Florida House Speaker Daniel Perez, who wants to reduce the sales tax rate from 6% to 5.25%. Both proposals would provide $5 billion in tax relief. If approved, the property tax rebates would be issued in December, according to the governor's office. Perez says his proposed sales tax break is a way to make Florida more affordable. Senate President Ben Albritton said he thinks both ideas are worthy of thought and consideration, although he prefers a one-time, non-recurring relief in the final tax package, leaving a permanent tax reduction for future consideration. Ultimately, the governor would like to place it on the 2026 Florida ballot for a constitutional amendment eliminating property taxes permanently.
Travis, I'd like to start with you. Is the property tax rebate a good strategy for Republicans?
Well, I think, I'm a Reagan Republican. I never met a tax cut I didn't like, So I'm going to say that I never thought we'd have this conversation, really. Coming up, going to school in Florida, born and raised here, family owns property here, have owned property here. Always thought, wow, wouldn't it be nice if we could ultimately one day you really own the property? Because as it stands, you never really own the property. There's always the tax man, and if you don't pay the taxes, someone will take the property away from you. My mom's lived in the same home now going over 40, 50 years. And will she ever, before she passes away, will she ever really own that property? No, not really. So I welcome the conversation. I don't, we'll let them hash it out, whether it's a sales tax cut for now or a long-term property tax reduction. I'd love to see us eventually at least have some sort of big exemption that maybe after a certain period of years of owning property tolls, if you can do that without there being any kinds of constitutional problems for equal protection or anything like that, if you could formulate something like that, I'd love to see it.
Roberto, the House Speaker and the governor clearly are sparring in public. How does this bode for the Democrats in the midterm elections, who are the candidates who are watching this?
I think it's an accounting problem. I think that they recognize that there has to be some sort of relief, whether that comes with like a permanent or a temporary reduction. I mean, two totally different approaches. One says, ignore school districts or your roads. We're gonna lose this funding that actually goes into those things. And the ones that are disproportionately affected are the ones that live in rural areas that depend on more schools built or hiring the best and the brightest, which are the teachers. We already have a drain, especially in Hillsborough County, which is the 8th largest school district, to other surrounding school districts that have a larger tax base that can recruit those teachers and pay them more.
Counties,
right.
Correct.
And on the sales tax form, the opportunity to provide some relief with inflation, I welcome it all the time. I mean, I see people struggle to afford their groceries. However, that idea that sales tax, we're going to also lose that on the tourism side. And that's troubling because we also have this idea of paying for infrastructure, which are the things that we enjoy through that.
Catherine, when you all are doing your stories on Axios Tampa Bay, what are the residents telling you? Is one more favorable than the other? Do they have an option that they prefer?
We haven't heard too much from readers on this issue. I do think one of the biggest questions that we have, and something I've heard from local government officials, is how local governments will be funded if property taxes were eliminated or there was a big cut. I mean, your local, police department, fire department, parks, schools, are all funded through largely property taxes. And so, there's been a pattern in Tallahassee of eroding what's called home rule, where the local government decides what's best for its own residents. And this would be kind of the ultimate erosion of home rule. Right. So that's definitely one of the biggest questions we have, and that we want to try to, get a better sense of for our readers, so they know what's actually at stake and what will impact them on a day-to-day basis.
Janelle, this is the first legislative session after our devastating hurricane season. So many more voters expected sturdy conversations around the whole issue of insurance. Will there be a political consequence to having so much attention on property taxes, sales taxes, homestead, instead of really tackling the issue of rising cost of insurance?
You know, in a former life, I was a communications director, so I have some experience on that side of things. And if I were working for Governor Ron DeSantis right now, I would be looking at this as an opportunity to say, okay, well, we haven't seen much movement on the property insurance front. We're working on it. It's a slow roll sort of thing. So here's something that we can do immediately to offer property owners some relief as they still continue to face these higher than normal property insurance rates. But I don't think that it should be ignored, the conversation about regressive tax, right? Sales tax is inherently regressive because it affects everybody the same. So if you're going to roll something back, why not have it be the tax that's going to benefit, a tax rollback that's going to benefit everybody rather than just property owners who typically are more affluent than non-property owners. Right. But you know, there's also the argument that maybe those savings, if you're a landlord, trickle down to your tenants. So you know, there's really strong arguments to be had no matter what side of this argument you're on. Any way you slice it, though, the governor is able to pitch this to his constituency as, you know, I'm trying to give you some relief because I know your wallet's hurting right now.
Right.